Stephen Curry was rated a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, leading to none of the big colleges wanting him. Scouts wrote off Stephen Curry as being too skinny, that he had a weird looking shot. In a sport built for giants, he didn't look like he belonged at all. But then, when they actually gave him a chance, that same 3-star recruit blew the roof off the NCAA and rewrote the entire DNA of the NBA. He broke the game actually. He changed how basketball is played, coached, and he did it without ever looking the part. This actually is truly one of the more inspirational stories in sports. How Steph Curry went from overlooked to unstoppable. Before he was a 2-time MVP, before he had more threes than anyone in history, Steph Curry was a kid trying to survive in his dad's shadow. His father, Del Curry, was an NBA vet. So of course, everyone assumes Steph had it easy. Hey, your dad was in the NBA, you got a leg up. But what they didn't see was there were so many doors being slammed in this dude's face. Duke? Nope. Virginia Tech? He was listed at 160 pounds soaking wet. His release was too slow. His handle was too loose. ESPN had him ranked 256. The only school that gave him a shot was Davidson, a tiny college with no basketball pedigree and no NBA pipeline. But what Steph lacked in physique, he made up for with obsession. He would spend hours tweaking his shot, rewiring the mechanics, fixing the hitch, speeding up the release. And in just 2 seasons, he turned that unranked Davidson team into a March Madness monster. All while standing at 6'2" and 160 pounds. Because one thing was starting to become clear to the world. Despite his stature, Curry was redefining what it meant to have in the gym range and possessed nuclear weapons in his wrist. So he knew it was time for the next challenge. In 2009, Steph Curry declared for the NBA draft. But once again, major adversity came a-knocking. Despite blowing the roof off the NCAA, 6 teams said no. And you can only imagine that it was due to superficial, stupid assessments like he's so short and he's so skinny. The Wolves took 2 other point guards. Neither of them lasted in the league. The Knicks wanted him, but actually got sniped 1 pick earlier by a team who had the common sense to make the best pick. But even when Golden State finally called his name at number 7, even they weren't totally sure what they had. And that's when what seemed like a disaster struck. And the future was looking bleak before the present had even started. He'd already been passed over in the draft, then he got picked, and as soon as that happened, Steph's ankles started betraying him. Sprain after sprain, surgery after surgery. He missed 40 games in 1 season. One Warriors exec even admitted they were ready to give up on him. In 2012, he signed a 4-year extension for just $44 million. But at the time, it looked fair, and Golden State were actually a little bit hesitant. Imagine that. In hindsight, it became the biggest bargain contract in NBA history because Steph figured it out. He rebuilt his body, reworked his core. His obsessiveness paid off, and by 2015, he went nuclear. He led the Warriors to 67 wins, won the MVP, and shattered the single season 3-point record. Oh, and to top it all off, Steph led the Warriors to their first NBA championship in 40 years. The next year, he became the first and only unanimous MVP in league history. And remember, this was supposed to be a league made for the giants. And here he was, all 6'3" and maybe now 170 pounds of him, who won the first and only unanimous MVP. And during this is when Steph actually changed the game.
I'm out. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Because teams started realizing that he needed to be picked up as soon as his feet crossed the half-court line. No other player had ever instituted such a crazy defensive change. But yet again, it seems for the greatest among us, Adversity's always lurking around the corner. And for Steph, his greatest adversity was just about to happen. The 2016 NBA Finals. The Warriors are the first team in NBA history to blow a 3-1 lead, breaking a 50-year curse in the process. Steph underperformed throughout most of the series, but capped it off by throwing a behind-the-back out-of-bounds pass in Game 7. And the way LeBron performed, dude went supernova and completely outplayed the guy who was the only unanimous MVP in NBA history. Suddenly, the media turned and Steph's biggest critics had a field day. Is he clutch? Can you win with the jump shooting team? Was that MVP run a fluke? And just when Steph was supposed to bounce back and show the world that it wasn't a fluke, Kevin Durant showed up, making that version of the Warriors the most overpowered team of all time. It was a literal cheat code, and they won 2 straight titles. But KD got the finals MVP both times. And now those whispers turn to noise. He's not the best player on his team. He needs superstars to win. He disappears on the biggest stage. Despite breaking records, winning championships, and inspiring multiple generations of NBA fans, Steph Curry somehow became dismissed yet again. Then it seemed like the Golden State dynasty collapsed. KD left for Brooklyn. Klay tore his ACL and Achilles and was never the same player. Draymond looked washed and seemed more content to be doing his podcast than playing basketball. And then Steph broke his hand and missed most of the 2020 season. They finished with the worst record in the league. Nobody was even talking about Steph anymore. Luka, Giannis, Jokic, even Ja Morant at the time. They were the new faces of the NBA. Many asked if Steph was past his prime, but quietly, the greatest do it in the dark. And Steph was plotting a comeback. He didn't just post about it. He didn't talk about revenge. He just showed up and cemented his legacy in the process. This time, no one could take it away from him. 2022, Steph has somehow led the Warriors back to the finals. No KD, no super team, just Steph, Klay, Draymond, Wiggins, and self-belief. The Celtics were favored. Their defense was elite. They won Game 1 in Golden State and were up 2-1 with Game 4 at home. Then Steph detonated, lit them on fire. 43 points in Game 4. He screamed, he flexed, he stomped on the TD Garden floor. And when it was all over, there was no doubt. Steph Curry was the finals MVP for the first time in his career. The last missing piece of his legacy, complete. Steph Curry didn't just change how basketball is played. He changed who gets to play it. He made every kid with a jump shot believe again. He proved that you don't need to be 7 foot, explosive, or the chosen one. You just need work ethic, obsession, and an imagination no coach can teach. From 3-star recruit to dynasty architect to the man who changed the NBA forever.